Hi everyone, welcome to this presentation on other psychological theories and TA. This is a presentation intended for advanced learners in TA. This is only an overview and many other psychological theories and methods are being mentioned here. This is only an overview on each one of them. Please, for detailed understanding and learning, do your own research and search and maybe access books or online libraries and make your own notes and presentations. If you are interested and have more questions, when you present them in the live session, we can have more discussions and clarifications on that. The learning objectives for this session are to identify a few other theoretical approaches for mental health than transactional analysis. Name the founders of those approaches, their important theories, and list the major ideas in these theories and related therapeutic methods. And alongside, compare and contrast with TA. Let's begin with psychoanalysis. As you all know, Sigmund Freud is the founder of psychoanalytic theory. His disciples include Paul Federn, Anna Freud, Carl Jung, Otto Rank, William Steckel, Sandor Franzi, Alfred Adler, William Fliess, Ernest Jones, John Bowlby, Viktor Frankl, Melanie Klein, Fritz Perls, Jacques Lacan, William Reich, Donald Winnicott, and many others. I am just giving a few names which are very commonly referred to when you deeply search about psychology and psychoanalytic theory. The important concepts that came up in psychoanalysis are the conscious and the unconscious parts of the human mind, the ego psychology and psychic agencies like id, ego, and superego, psychosexual development theory, and the stages of psychosexual developments, namely oral, anal, phallic, latent, and genital. This is also in connection with the human physiological development. Then the concept of defense mechanisms. Some of the defense mechanisms described are repression, denial, projection, intellectualization, displacement, sublimation, etc. Then the major concept of self-psychology was developed as part of psychoanalytic theory. The object relations theory, which is very often referred to in many of the psychological discussions. The major methods of therapy in psychoanalysis included free association. Free association is like the client is requested to rest on a couch and just keep talking, and the therapist won't be seen by the client. Therapist sits behind the client so that the client is not interfered in his free associated talking, and therapist picks up some things from the discussion as per the theory and later on interprets it to the client. Then when the client describes dream, there is a specific way of doing dream analysis. And the other important is the transference analysis. Transference is a concept which explains that in any relationship one may project some concepts in our mind or some persons in our mind whom we are reminded of when we meet another person and project onto them. Like for example, when you meet somebody, you are reminded of your mother, you behave to the other person as you behave to your mother, things like that. So this is a major concept in psychoanalytic theory and diagnosis. Now when you compare psychoanalytic theory with TA, must remember here that Eric Berne himself was trained as psychoanalyst, and his theory of transactional analysis was much a refinement on the psychoanalytic theory, in the sense, like if you say psychic agencies, id, ego, and superego, a lot of people are not able to clarify what it is. So Eric Berne developed a concept of ego states, and ego itself can be in 3 states. That's what he theorized. And he used the word parent, adult, and child to describe. so which is easily understood by anyone. So in that sense, he was making psychoanalytic theory more appealing even to patients and more understandable. And he was breaking the um, conventional methods of that time when doctors considered they know everything and patients didn't understand stuff. Eric Burns' attitude and approach was different. He trusted patients and he used words and languages which are understandable to even 6-year-old child. That's the way he described them. So the concepts, many of the concepts, he structured them well, and he developed the concept of transacting with each other from 3 ego states. So when two people communicate, it's not just one person that is communicating, it is actually 6 people communicating with 3 ego states in the sense. So he said that ego states are persons, it's not just ideas. So these are all the major conceptual differences. I invite you to go and read TA in depth from Eric Burns' book on TA in psychotherapy and other books, where he refers to all these comparisons and differences, how he structured and filled the structural gap in the theory through his theory of transactional analysis. The known psychoanalysts and their major ideas I'm describing here. Paul Federn was the one who developed the ego feeling theory and the ego psychology. In fact, Eric Berne was his disciple, and it's from him that he used the word ego to develop the ego state theories. And Carl Jung developed analytical psychology later. Anna Freud is the pioneer in child psychology and child adoption recommendations. Otto Rank developed theories on conflict between fear of life and death among people. Alfred Adler developed the importance of belonging and relationship. Viktor Frankl developed logotherapy, which is very focused on focus in life or goal in life. Jacques Lacan developed the identity theory, and he said that identity is always some level of fantasy about it. William Reich was famous for his theories on mass psychology and the reasons for developing fascism. Ronald Winnicott and his developmental psychology theories even now very deeply used by many of the psychological practitioners. Erik Erikson was very famous for his concepts in identity crisis. Eric Fromm developed the interaction psychology with society, and Kohut is famous for developing self psychology. So all these people are psychoanalysts, but as practitioners and they became experienced, they refined into the theory and more ideas were developed. The next theory we are going to learn is about Gestalt theory. Fritz Perls is the originator of the Gestalt theory. The major idea in the Gestalt theory is that the whole of anything is greater than its parts. The word Gestalt is used in modern German to mean the way a thing has been placed or put together. Fritz Perls was a German therapist. The principles of Gestalt therapy or theory consist of the different ways in which individuals group stimuli together in order to make a whole that makes to them some senses. So he classified them into 5 ways in which people put together stimuli to make sense out of the stimuli. So it's the proximity of the stimuli, the similarity in the stimuli, the continuity of the stimuli, the connectedness of the stimuli, and together bring a closure with all of them. So any experience, sense is made out of any experience, or it's recorded in the memory in relation to all these aspects. That's what it means. The Gestalt therapy is considered centered in increasing the person's awareness, freedom and self-direction. So the purpose is to develop self-direction for the client. The therapy focuses on the present not on the past or future, to understand what is actually happening in the lives of the client at this particular moment while in therapy and how it makes them feel. So that's how the process continues in therapy. The 4 pillars of Gestalt therapy are considered phenomenology, that means staying close to the client's current experience. The dialogical relationship between the therapist and the client. It's not like the therapist doesn't use strategies to achieve some predefined objective, but gets into a dialogue with the client and outcome evolves. It's not predicted outcome in therapy. The other important concept is the field theory, which says that everything occurs in a context. So like we learned earlier, how the client makes stimuli, that is what it is related to. How the client makes meaning out of stimuli. So that is the context. So that has very good value given in the process of therapy, in Gestalt therapy. Experimentation is a very important aspect. We'll see what it is in the techniques. So the techniques used by Gestalt therapists are empty chair technique. One client is asked to sit before an empty chair and imagine another person whom he wants to dialogue with sitting on the other chair and start a dialogue. From that, what is going on inside the client's mind will emerge. We have incorporated this concept into TA therapy in doing the 3-chair exercise. Role play, I'm sure all of you know what role play is. We play roles to experience how it is like to be in certain roles. And major important kinds of experimentation are reliving past experience or exaggerating what happened in the past or verbalizing what happened so that it gets clarity in the thought of the client. Dream work, as we discussed earlier, and very important is the awareness of the present moment in Gestalt therapy. So in between I said how it is comparing to TA. Many things are very similar in TA theory, and especially we have adopted this technique of empty chair technique into our TA practice, where we use 3 chairs to identify what is inside the 3 ego states of the client. So if the client wants to have a dialogue with the parent ego state, from the child to the parent, we can use this 3-chair technique or 2-chair technique, as we, depending on the context we are working on. Analytical psychology is a branch that developed from Carl Jung. The major concept in the analytical psychology is the collective unconscious, which can be thought of as structures of the unconscious mind, which are shared by most other people also. Not just unconscious is not just belonging to one person. The unconscious is collective. That's a very important idea that Carl Jung shared. And the important theoretical ideas in analytical psychology include the 4 main psychological functions, namely thinking, feeling, sensation and intuition, and typing people into 4 types based on combinations and permutations of thinking, feeling, sensation and intuition. The major associates of Carl Jung in developing analytical psychology were Emma Jung, his own wife, who was a psychoanalyst, and Carl Alfred Meyer, who practically was his successor in the analytical psychology field. His important disciples were Mary Louise von Franz, Eric Newman, Robert Johnson, James Hollis, and many others are there. The method of therapy in analytical method is art, dream analysis, and active imagination. And word association is very important. Like when somebody speaks, words have associated memories, and so that is sometimes investigated into. So you compare with TA, it's like psychoanalytic other theories. many things common in TA. And in TA we don't call it unconscious, but we refer to the unconscious through the parent structure and the child structure, and the adult is considered the part in the personality who is more related to the in the moment. So again you can see that Eric Berne was using these concepts and structuring them well in such a way that even clients understand. Cognitive psychology is a branch of psychology developed by Jean Piaget. The important concepts in cognitive psychology is that individuals must first understand a concept before they can use language to express it. It's a very basic idea in the cognitive psychology theory. The major practitioners in cognitive psychology area are Jean Piaget, Lev Vygotsky, George Miller, and Noam Chomsky. The methods of therapy include mindfulness practice, cognitive restructuring, guided discovery, exposure therapy, journal writing, engaging in activity scheduling, behavioral experiments, breathing and relaxation, role playing. So you can see many things repeatedly come in common between all these methods, especially role playing. You can see all these methods says about role playing. And there are overlap between these methods, but each of the therapists defines each of these methods very specifically when they develop them into applications. You compare cognitive psychology with TA, you can see that the concept of understanding is very important in TA practice also. The adult ego state is considered the part of the personality which has capability to decipher stimuli into its relevant meaning in the present and helps deciphering the meaning in the recorded information in the parent and the child. So it's a very cognitive process, and the parent and adult ego states also have cognition because they are depicted as persons, not just ideas in the TA theory. So the concepts of cognitive psychology are also incorporated in TA theory. And if you look at the method of TA practice, particularly decontamination, it is actually a cognitive work. The adult is considered to be contaminated by the parent and the child, and decontamination is helping the adult understand and cognizant that these are past concepts and not relevant in the present. So the cognitive psychology principles are applied very much in the decontamination way of TA therapy. You can read more about it for more detailed understanding and comparison. Humanistic psychology is a theory attributed to Carl Rogers. Carl Rogers had as his associates basically Otto Rango, Rollo May, and Abraham Maslow. The important concept in the uh, humanistic psychology is the empowerment of clients with congruence between the real selves and the ideal selves, and helping clients to be open to an experience. So the methods they use in this therapy are person-centered therapy, meaning in the therapy the important concept or aspect is the client. So it's client-centered therapy. And the unconditional positive regard for the client. That is not being judgmental to the client about his past or present or whatever experiences he had. Then very important is the unstructured interviews. Like the client is asked open questions and the therapist stays with whatever the client says. They're not like asking questions for expected answers. That's what it means to say unstructured interviews. Observation, empathy, and listening reflectively to the client. Again, role play you can see here. So these are all important methods practiced by humanistic psychologists. So you can see many of these techniques are practiced in transactional analysis also. In transactional analysis practice also, the client is at the center of the therapy. We also use role play, and being empathetic is explained through the strokes theory, and also unconditional positive regard is explained through the stroke theory, and the need of unconditional positive regard for the client through the unconditional positive strokes theory. So please read more for more understanding and clarity. Behavioral theories, the John B. Watson is considered the founder of the behavioral theories. Other major theorists in this area are Ivan Pavlov, B.F. Skinner, Albert Bandura, etc. The important concepts in the behavioral theory is classical conditioning, which says listening. An example is when you listen to music while doing hard work, you get conditioned to that, and the hardness of the work may be lightened by listening to the music. So that stimuli related to the activity is also important. That is what the theory says. That is conditioned into our personality. And operant conditioning, on the other hand, says that when you get a reward for a hard work, you learn that the hard work is important. So there is a kind of learning through these processes. That's what the theory says. And the also says that learning happens through observation. So the therapeutic methods are based on these concepts. In therapy, operant conditioning is practiced, and you can see that in TA when you give positive conditional strokes, it's actually operant conditioning. Then there's something called token economy, when you reward good behavior with exchangeable tokens for other whatever the client needs, again related to conditional positive feedbacks and strokes. And systemic desensitization is an application of the classical conditioning theory, and exposure therapy is also related to the classical conditioning theory. So you are exposed to certain stimuli to either reduce the impact of something or accelerate the impact of some experience that a client has. So I have said some comparisons with TA. Read and explore for more comparisons. The social psychology or social learning theory has been developed by theorists Albert Bandura and Lev Vygotsky. It is also called the social development theory. The most important idea in this theory is that behavior is much more complicated than the simple stimulus and response behaviorism, or what the behavioral theory says. It's not just that you get a stimulus and you respond and you learn from it. It is more than that. It has other social dimensions. And the important learning methods they describe are observation, attention, retention, reproduction, and motivation. And a child's cognitive development and learning ability can be guided and mediated through all these social interactions. The practical applications are many in classrooms and in group therapy. If you compare with TA, you can see many things that happen in our group therapy or group treatment learning. Many of you have been in treatment and therapy room groups. You can recollect some comparisons from there. And even in our own learning group, some of these elements are practiced. So search for it and ask questions in our live sessions if you need more clarity. The social learning theory applications are primarily in educational and in therapeutic groups. In the educational applications include explaining, modeling, using guided practice by teachers, interactive learning, flipping classroom where students are requested to take the role of teachers, teachers using rewards, encouraging connectedness between the members of the group, peer mentoring, peer teaching, peer assessments, student created videos and presentations. And the therapeutic applications include behavioral models, helping the client to identify behavioral models for the client, and modifications in behavior based on what they want, and deconditioning of fear are particularly some therapeutic applications. So you would have already heard a few comparisons on TA. Just clarify in your thought and present it in the online live sessions. Positive psychology, Martin Seligman is considered the founder, and Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi is also co-founder with him. The scientific study of positive human functioning and flourishing in life is the important concept in positive psychology. There are three legs to the therapy principles. They are the positive experiences in the client, the positive traits in the client, and the positive social institutions available. So the therapeutic methods primarily include focusing on the strengths of the clients, recording experiences, being grateful and showing gratitude, developing skills to increase positivity in the client. They are all methods. So if you compare with TA, you can see that positive stroking and the importance of not giving unconditional negative strokes as taught by TA, and using very little negative stroking and using them only conditionally, and also the use of conditional positive stroking to encourage specific learning. So they are all very comparable with the positive psychology theory and its applications. Thank you very much for listening. Please go and read and do your homework and develop comparing and contrasting with TA in your understanding of all these theories. See you in the online sessions. Thank you.